welcome to Podcast versus Player. We got another review, and today's review is another microphone from FiFine. Today is the K669D. If you're thinking of upgrading to an XLR studio mic but not wanting to spend a great deal of money, then FiFine may just have the answer in the form of the K669D. The K669D is an end-address dynamic XLR microphone with a cardioid polar pattern. The body and wire grill are all metal, with the only plastic being the adjustable pivot mount that also provides both a 3/8 and 5/8 connector. There's no control buttons on the mic, but at the $39.99 asking price, that's to be expected. FiFine had told me that this was a budget mic built for beginners and intermediate level recording work, but just from the feel alone, it doesn't seem budget at all, with a real hefty weight to it thanks to that all metal body. Now, while FiFine have included a tabletop stand, that's all you get with it, so there's no cable and there isn't actually a pop filter. But one thing that I will say straight off the bat about this is it's not very good at rejecting plosives. So what we're going to do, we're just going to take out, take this off. Peter Piper picked a pepper. Podcast versus player. So without any kind of pop filter, the K669D does struggle when it comes to rejecting those plosives. Podcast versus player. Peter Piper picked a pepper. So what I've done, I attached this podcast versus player. Peter Piper picked a pepper. It's a lot better. But yeah, it does solve it very easily, and you get these these are really cheap. As mentioned, the K669D does come with a stand, but as always, I never use them. I've got a plethora of these little tabletop stands. I don't see the point of them. A, they're too low, especially for stuff like this, which requires you to be reasonably close to it. But you're also getting like all your mouse clicks, keyboard clicks, and everything else. So I never use them. But it's good that they do at least include it in there. But because there's no controls on the body of the mic itself, it means you get no audio monitoring. What you can do though is just load it up in OBS and turn it on in there. Overall though, I really like it. It's a XLR dynamic microphone, which is great for podcasting and stuff, and also recording instruments and things like that as well. In terms of value for money, because bearing in mind as well, you're going to have to buy a audio interface or a mixer and an XLR cable and a boom arm if you don't already have one. So keeping this down to a low price, but still the sound wise, I think it sounds very good for the price. It's a little bit too bright for my liking, but again, that's just from I've got a reasonably deep voice, and just listening to it back now in my ears, it's like I say, it's a little bit bright in parts, but for the most part, it sounds excellent, and you could very easily record a podcast with this. But negatives being that I would rather they didn't include the stand and they included a pop filter. It's not very good at rejecting plosives, and again, you can kind of touch these things up in post, but it's always better to get it recorded right the first time. I've been using the K688 since I reviewed it. I genuinely think it's an excellent microphone. It looks good and it sounds good. And if you can't quite stretch that £90 budget, then this is a really, really good alternative. How it looks, how it feels, I think this is a very tempting microphone for people wanting to take a tentative step into the world of XLR recording, obviously providing you have or intend to get an audio interface or mixer. It's definitely worth checking out. And speaking of checking out, why don't you go to podcastversusplayer.com? It's all going along the bottom of the screen, but there's more reviews, let's plays, podcasts, a load of things. And we'll see you on the next one. Bye. But that's all it really needs. The f am I on about? So without any kind of pop filter, this what is this? I don't know what I'm doing. Peter Piper picked a pepper, pickle Peter poo. So without any kind of pop filter, the K6, it's a very good. I don't know what I'm doing.